Man, I've had a huge string of viral tweets lately because of my righteous indignation. Yes, I've been very angry. I've often talked about how I'm going to slowly move away from Twitter, but I gotta admit, it ropes you in and drags you back because, I don't know, people want to express themselves, and you get outraged by a lot of what you see on this website, and you're like, dude, something has to be done. But admittedly, a lot of the things I have been talking about is just how awful Twitter is, and I made this tweet. I said, I'm done with this website. Fuck Twitter. Thousands of verified evil psychotic monsters calling for violence and death against children, and Twitter does jack shit. Yeah, I'll swear in this video. I linked to a video from someone named Civiltarian, who also got 3,000 retweets. They reported one of the accounts that called for the death of these kids, encouraging people to kill them. And Twitter said, "Thank you for your recent report. We have reviewed your report carefully and found that there was no violation of the Twitter rules against abusive behavior." Really? That's really fascinating that you think that, Twitter. That a verified user... So here's the thing. There's a few things that I want to bring up. There's a reason why these people aren't getting banned, okay? They're in the club. It's a religion. It's not about politics. It's literally about if you're in their religion, they don't care. Alyssa Milano said the Trump head is the new KKK hood. Jack Dorsey agrees. He doesn't disagree with that. He said he's on the left. We know Twitter's biased. Let this be the most perfect example that there is absolute bias against conservatives, and it's not just conservatives, it's those who oppose their religion, okay? The identitarian left, their ideologues, they are basically the new evangelicals. We went through this in the 90s with the Christian right when they wanted to, slap labels on music or whatever, when they wanted to put restrictions on video games. Admittedly, it wasn't all conservatives who were doing this. But those who are more, a lot of what we're seeing, I actually think it's worse now. I was a kid back then, so I don't know the full context, but it seems way worse now because the institutions that are controlled by the left are overbearing. Like they have a lot of power. And thus, we can see celebrities, the mainstream media, we can see activists pumping out complete and total garbage, calling for violence. And Twitter says, it's fine, don't worry about it. Why? Because they're covering for those within their religion. If you're in the religion, if you follow their rules and join their mob, they'll protect you. There's one thing I want to bring up before getting into something really interesting that was tweeted recently from years ago. This is Face Crimes and 1984. It's an archive. This is from just about 11 years ago. I noticed a news item the other day about the TSA having trained special personnel to wander airports and ask travelers innocuous questions, and then to watch their face expressions when they respond. Questions like, where are you going? Going on vacation. The TSA believes they can train observers to notice micro face expressions. If your face expression is suspicious, you will be taken aside for extra security screening or questioning. This is, they're highlighting face crime. And it's funny how, back in the day, a lot of people said that the authoritarian regime would come from the government. I don't think it will, actually. It's going to come from within our own society, and thus it cannot be purged. If the government acts inappropriately, we have a constitution. We can actually say, buzz off. We can change it. We can pass laws. When society itself, at its core, is holding an ideology, you can't change that. Look, on Twitter, we've seen so far one person fired. There's been an account suspension. I'm saving that for my video at 4 p.m. because, long story short, I think this is a psychological operation that's destroying the fabric of society, and it's not a culture war issue, but it's a complicated story, so I'm saving it. It's complicated. The point I'm trying to make, what we're seeing with face crime, what we're seeing with the expansion of the culture war, people getting fired, it's society itself, right? MasterCard has terms of service. They will ban you if you hold ideas they don't like. It doesn't matter because they're a private business, and the identitarian left are accepting of this because it is their religion. How do you create a separation of church and state when it's a non-theistic religion or an ideology? You have an extreme dogmatic, zealous ideology that doesn't fit the confines of traditional theism. Thus, they're allowed to permeate government. And you can't have a separation of ideology and state because ideology can be nuanced or can be complicated. And ideology does include religion too, but we can clearly, determine what is or isn't a church or a religion. Actually, it is kind of hard for the most part. The issue is intersectional feminism, identitarianism. It is a religion, absolutely. And I'm not the only one who thinks so. And anyway, the point about face crime is this kid in the MAGA situation, They didn't like his face. His face said everything, and that was the warrant for calling for his death. Literally calling for the death of someone for their face. That's where we're at. But this is a religion. And someone tweeted this article from 2015. Anti-racism, our flawed new religion. Opposition to racism used to be a political stance. Now it has every marking of a religion with both good and deleterious effects on American society. And this is in reference to Black Lives Matter. And this is from the Daily Beast, which is far left and pushes complete BS and fake news. Peter Boghossian, James Lindsay, Helen Pluckrose. Academics, scholars, writers. I reference them because they were one of the first I've spoken to who pushed the idea that intersectional feminism, left-wing identitarianism, is a religion. A lot of people said, there's no God. How can it be a religion? And he said, Buddhism has no God. Is that a religion? It's called a non-theistic religion. So let's read a little bit about what John McWhorter said back in 2015. An anthropology article from 1956 used to get around more than it does now. Body ritual among Nasarima. Because my mother gave it to me to read when I was 13, of course, what I remember most from it, among the Nasarima, women with especially large breasts get paid to travel and display them. Nasarima was American spelled backwards. Oh, I see. Get it? And the idea was to show how revealing and even peculiar our society is if described from a clinical distance. Oh, that's actually really interesting. These days, there is something else about Nasarima that they have developed a new religion. The religion is anti-racism, of course. Most consider anti-racism a position or evidence of morality. However, in 2015, among educated Americans especially, anti-racism it seriously merits capitalization at this point, is now what any naive, unbiased anthropologist would describe as a new and increasingly dominant religion. It is what we worship as sincerely and fervently as many worship God and Jesus, among most blue state Americans more so. To someone today making sense of Nasarima, the category of person who roughly reads the New York Times and New Yorker and listens to NPR would be a deeply religious person indeed, but as an anti-racist. This is good in some ways, better than most are in a position to realize. This is also bad in other ways, worse than most are in a position to realize. Anyway, basically, he brings up a really interesting point that when you stand back, so the people who are entrenched in identitarianism think they're in the normal world. They think they're the moderates. There was a far left, and I mean as far left as you can go. This is a person who was a socialist. Like on the economic scale, left for right, socialism is literally as far left as you can go. And they said they were a moderate. This is an activist who is working in PR with other far left activists, and he said, I'm a moderate, I'm not even far left. And I said, which direction are you talking about? You can't go further left than overt socialism. And you're a socialist. That is far. Laissez-faire capitalism is as far right you can go on the economic scale, and far left as you can go on the economic scale would be socialism. Then you have authoritarian, libertarian. The cultural scale is completely different and vague and nebulous. But the point was, these people who are in this religion think everyone outside of their religion is a heathen, is far right. That's what they'll call you. And this really, the behaviors they have dogma, they have sin, original sin, they have privilege, they have punishments, and now if the look on your face is wrong, they will come for you. So what ends up happening? Basically, anti-racism was how it was being viewed initially, even by people associated with the Daily Beast. But where we're at now is that it's intersectionality. That is the phrase used to describe this non-theistic religion, and I think it really should be classified as a religion. Basically, where we've come to at this point, and the point I'm trying to make about all of this, it's not so much the face crime thing. I thought that was interesting to bring up. But the kid was wearing a MAGA hat, and that was everything. He was wearing a symbol that opposes your religion. They call it the other religion, sure, but a lot of these kids who wear these hats don't have overt ideologies for the most part. Many of these people actually just oppose ideology. Many of them are libertarian, anti-theists, atheists, etc. The left used to have them. The left now, the mainstream left, those who are rallying to support the violence against these kids, those who are on Twitter are a part of this religion, and so is Jack Dorsey, and so are the employees of Twitter. And thus, it has never been more apparent. Let this be the shining example of the true bias that Twitter has against those who don't agree with its ideology. They like to say in the media, actually, and this is another really good example, we can now see the clear dividing line. The people in media say, there's no bias against conservatives. That's because you, in the media, are a part of this religion. So they're like, oh, it's not biased, they're lying. That's not true. Why? They're covering for them. They are literally covering for the lies. They also have activist organizations that produce nonsense, literal fake news about YouTubers. And then when a researcher actually compiled data found the left gets more than double the recommendations on YouTube. This is the danger of a shadow religion taking over and coming onto Twitter. So anyway, I don't know. It's just a rant that I wanted to point out. The few of the issues that I wanted to bring up is that this idea of a social justice religion, it's been around for a long time. Since 2015 at least. We've known. We're watching it expand. It's going to get nightmarish. It's going to get really, really scary. Keep that in mind. And the next video I'm making is going to address just how scary this really is. And trust me when I say it's scarier than you realize. It would seem that what we're experiencing right now is literal foreign meddling meant to destroy the United States, and it's working. And I don't know if it can be stopped at this point. So that's on youtube.com/Timcast at 4 p.m. I'll see you then.